This is a CBS 21 News Special Report, The Great Flood 2011.
Good morning and welcome to our live special report on the Great Flood of 2011. I'm Rob Hanrahan. Face the State, which normally airs at this time, will return next week. In the next hour, we'll examine the hardest hit areas of the Susquehanna Valley and give you the latest information on the recovery from the people who are hard at work trying to pull us out of this flood crisis, which began with flash flooding in Derry Township.
I was shaking. We were both shaking. We just wanted to get out of there.
It was really scary because the whole entire parking lot was just underwater, like going up into the building.
Continue to rain, the waters will continue to rise.
All of a sudden, our cars were like underwater, so we went running through the water to get our cars out.
I have so much anxiety right now. It's like, because I could lose everything.
I am declaring a curfew.
Just looking after each other, and that says a lot about the spirit of the city.
The time to panic, this is a time to prepare.
Way off the charts, and it's going to be a magnitude so much higher that I don't even know. I can't even comprehend something like this.
This is a catastrophic event, and we want to make sure that we do all we can to protect our residents.
This is the worst I've ever seen it. It's involved not just this area, but other parts of the town.
I don't like this. This is only the second time this has been like this, and it's not this. It wasn't this bad the last time. It wasn't even in my yard.
Bridges are built to withstand the volume of water that actually is going to flow underneath them.
And I will tell you, I am amazed at what water can do to concrete and to asphalt and to the bridges that we have, and it's done quite a job here.
When you see the devastation that I've seen in 4 counties so far, how Pennsylvanians reacted to this, and how our firefighters, our police, and other first responders came to answer the call to duty, it just really makes you feel great to represent such good, hardworking people.
And so the sights and sounds of the Great Flood of 2011. CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan is in Hummelstown for us tonight, where neighbors are helping neighbors clean up after this major weather event. Donna's with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom in Hummelstown. And Donna, this is another example of how people of the Susquehanna Valley are helping each other.
Absolutely. I'm here at the Hummelstown Fire Department. As you may remember, the Swatara Creek rose so quickly, and some 200 homes here had basement flooding. Another 25 homes were totally submerged by the Swatara Creek. This is the base station for Neighbors Helping Neighbors. We have the fire station activated. From here, they get deployed. They're given gloves, they're given vests, everything they need to help these people who are in such desperate situations right now, cleaning out their homes. The National Guard has also stepped up and been deployed here. 10 members of the National Guard have been deployed here for 2 reasons. To watch out for looting, unfortunately, and also to watch over the bridges that are still not open. Duke Street, West Main, and Hanover here over the Swatara have not been reopened, and they have to be inspected by PennDOT before they can. Now let's find out more about this effort by volunteers. We go to the EMA director here in Hummelstown, Bob Martindale, also the mayor, Brad Miller. What kind of response have we had by people?
We were originally hoping for 80, and we wound up, I just got the latest count, was approximately 350 people.
350 people. And what, Mayor, what are they doing?
They're out loading trucks, and we're getting stuff in dumpsters, and we're starting a pile that we'll haul away over the week. Just so much stuff that's inundated, you know, so.
What would you say to anybody that's watching our program right now? Can you use more help?
We're not going to turn help away, obviously. If they want to come out, we'll find something for them to do. This will not be our last effort at this. As everybody knows what it was like this week, it's going to only continue. We hope to do more than this and get this community and everybody back to a normal status.
How does it make you feel on this special day, the remembrance of 9/11, a day to remember, but also a day that we've called service? that the people who served as volunteers back there and died, there's people now stepping up to volunteer here.
That's very true. Myself, being as closely related to it as I was, and all these firemen and police officers that are out here doing this today have that same thought in their mind, and they're still going at it. And that's something that we do for you guys, and it's greatly appreciated. And if you see one, walk up to them and shake their hand, because they definitely deserve it.
They certainly do and did, because I'll tell you, I heard story after story of rescues by volunteer firefighters, volunteer EMA. They came out and helped people that were in such dire situations. And this says it all, a day of remembrance and a day of service here in Hummelstown Borough. With the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom, back to you.
Okay, Donna, I want you to stand by in case you want to ask some questions here. Our infrastructure took a major hit in this flood. Many roads and bridges simply crumbled under the sheer force of the floodwaters. Joining me now are Fritzy Schreffler and Steve Grimmie of PennDOT. And Steve, let's start. Fritzy, we see you all the time, and we thank you so much for always talking to us during these events. And Steve, let me start with you. Where do we stand right now as far as getting the roads and bridges back to normal?
Right now, we feel like we're very lucky. We're down to 67 roads that are still closed, and at one point in time, we'd say we had close to 350 total road closures. And again, that's a dynamic number because some close as we go forward. Mm-hmm. But right now, we're down to 67. There's going to be some of those that are going to take a little longer to get open. And we might still find a few as the waters continue to subside, but there has been a lot of water that has gone down over the past 12 hours even to make things a lot better.
At one point during our coverage, I had, I believe, 12 pages of road closures. And Fritzy, we've been through blizzards together. We've covered other events. How does this one size up comparatively, I should say?
This was very significant for our district. You know, when you're looking at a snowstorm, there's things that we can do, very specific things we can do. We're plowing, we're getting the snow off the road, we're putting salt down, making it passable for people. When we're dealing with water, that's completely different. It's not like you can just drive a plow through and get the water off the road and open the roads again. So this was very taxing on our crews.
Steve, we saw some instances where the water actually just rushed underneath the pavement. The road then buckled and fell, right down further, creating like a sinkhole type situation. How long does it take to repair a road like that? And I think that's what you're referring to. This is what makes this weather event more difficult to recover from.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation, and there are roads that buckle, and of course with the waters rising and going under bridges, we're concerned about that as well. Once waters hit the bottom of a bridge, that becomes a more significant situation. But you mentioned pavements. We're very concerned, obviously, as the water subside, about the buckling of pavements. We've had a few of those, actually, that we've been able to clear up already. We've heard just north of District 8 on Interstate 81, northbound, we had a buckling of pavement. That got repaired rather quickly on Friday and Saturday.
I was surprised at that. I thought that would be a significant amount of time when I saw the governor show the picture of that. It looked really bad.
Exactly, and we had a pretty significant buckling down at the entrance to the Hershey Medical Center. We were really concerned about getting that back in order because of the sheer need for emergency vehicles to get into the Hershey Med Center. And that one we actually did at PennDOT. There's a certain level at which we'd say that's a little bit outside of our capability to do things, but I have to say I've only been acting district executive for 3 weeks, and I'm just truly humbled and amazed at people at PennDOT that are dedicated. This is a profession to them, and they're dedicated to make sure that we're taking care of our mission. And some of those people actually have personal tragedies themselves during this whole time. They have their basements flooded, they have their parents' basements flooded, and yet they're going taking care of that and coming back and helping to work out. There's some pretty dedicated folks out there that are taking care of some of these situations.
So Steve, 3 weeks in, and this has dropped on your lap. CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan is still with us. And Donna, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. Talking about those bridges up and down the Swatara. Of course, here in Hummelstown, they still have a few bridges out. But I know last night you had emergency declaration crews being paid through the emergency declaration, working all night up and down the Swatara. How did you do last night is getting those big bridges open?
Well, in terms of, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear exactly what you were saying there, but you were asking about the bridges along the Swatara. Mm-hmm. Again, when it comes down to bridges, we go through a process, and the process is The first thing out is our maintenance crews. If a bridge hasn't been overtopped, and that with the Swatara that wasn't the case, we've had situations where water was well over those bridges. We wait till the water goes down, and we make sure that we have bridge and safety inspectors go out and assess the damage. And we had those bridges highlighted all day. We've had crews out from Thursday through yesterday for sure, 7 to 9 bridge safety inspection crews looking at our bridges. And we actually were able to get to the point where we probably only have 3 or 4 bridges that we have to keep closed right now because of the damage. And we've been, again, rather lucky that we've been able to look at this. Most of the I'm going to say, is just maintenance type things where there's debris hanging up on some of the pier structure, but structurally we're only looking at 3 to 4 bridges. So we've had crews out making sure we're taking care of business.
Fritzy, one of the most frustrating things, I got like 10 seconds left here, but isn't it people driving around the roadblocks?
The roadblocks are up there for a reason. The barricades are there, and I'm surprised how many people we've seen who are actually driving around those barricades and risking their lives.
Fritzy Schreffler, Steve Grimmie from PennDOT, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming in for this special edition. We're going to have to take a quick break right now, and when we return, one of the hardest hit areas was Derry Township, Dauphin County. The Derry Township Police Chief, Patrick O'Rourke, joins us next. We'll be right back.
This is a CBS 21 News Special Report, The Great Flood, 2011.
We're back. And as we mentioned at the top of this broadcast, Derry Township took the first hit and possibly the hardest. Joining me now is the Derry Township Chief of Police, Patrick O'Rourke. Patrick, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
I know you're extremely busy right now still up there in Derry Township. Bring us up to date on the latest. What's going on right now?
Currently, the floodwaters have receded. The bridges are open. We ran into a time period where the 4 main bridges going across the Swatara Creek were totally submerged. So that being the Hanover Street Bridge, 743, 39, and Sand Beach Road. So there was no means of egress into the township from the north side of Derry Township at all. So
a lot
the
of people
roadways
felt stranded.
Yes, they were, and we at the police department actually became a little island unto ourselves. We were actually surrounded by water. And,
what did you do in that case?
well, we started moving cars to higher ground. At one point, we were operating out of our emergency operations center in the basement. We took on severe water down there and had to relocate our emergency operations center. About 1 in the morning the first night, we lost our dispatch communications.
Here's some video from
Yes.
the township that you can see here. What types of things did you see? Were you able to get out as you were on patrol through this?
When you go down 322 into the township and take the effort exit towards the medical center, that ramp is wiped out right now. There was flood water coming over Bullfrog Valley Road across 322 East that buckled. PennDOT's been very responsive in getting our roadways back open and doing a great job.
Yeah, as you saw, we just talked with them a moment ago. They're working hard on getting things back to normal. How about these businesses? I mean, these are landmarks for all of us who, drive by up there. How long do you think it's going to take those folks to get back to normal?
The wastewater treatment plant has pumps that are up and running. They just got online recently. That's going to allow the school system to get back functioning. And it won't be any time long before the Hershey Company and HE&R are back online. So hopefully it'll be a very quick transition.
If you had to tell something to your citizens right now, what would it be?
Just to be vigilant in assessing your property damage. We have an intake point at the lobby of the Derry Township Police Department where they can drop off the forms. They can pick them up, fill them out there, take them home, or drop them off later on. But they have to be vigilant in their cleanup and assessing their damage, and be patient with the police department because we lost the first 2 floors and we're still out there delivering calls for service, but we have some issues we're dealing with right now as far as communications and that kind of stuff to get going and keep going on a daily basis.
The video came up while you were talking about the police department, so let's go back to that and talk a little bit more about what you're doing. The first 2 floors, yes, you had to deal with water, yes, and so it's affected your radios?
Yes. The first evening we were operating out of the Emergency Operations Center. At 6:30 we went for a conference call with Dauphin County, and by 6:35 they were texting me on the phone saying we're taking on heavy water in the basement. And at first I didn't think they were being serious, but after the conference call and I got down there, the whole basement floor was flooded. So we took communications equipment, computer equipment, relocated the Emergency Operations Center, and by midnight it was totally underwater.
And so right now you're in a situation where you're using what types of radios?
We're still using our radios, but we're not up 100%. some of my officers are having trouble with portable radios communicating. We actually had to move on the first evening our communications truck up to the Hotel Hershey because it had a higher elevation to ensure us that we could hit all the microwave towers throughout the county. So we were dispatching from the Hotel Hershey parking lot and running police operations out of the Township Administration Building.
So when there's a will, there's a way. We want to continue talking more with Patrick O'Rourke, the chief of the Derry Township Police. We'll have more with him in just a moment as our coverage of the Great Flood of 2011 continues.
This is a CBS 21 News Special Report, The Great Flood 2011.
And welcome back to our special coverage of the Great Flood of 2011. It'll be a long time before things are back to normal. CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan is with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom in Hummelstown, where neighbors are helping each other with the cleanup. Donna.
Yeah, that's what this event is called. They expected about 80 people to show up to volunteer to clean out some of the homes that were devastated by the Swatara Creek's quick rise here. Some 200 homes had basement flooding. Another 25 were totally submerged. They thought 80 volunteers would show up, and guess what? 350 volunteers have showed up. Here they come to the fire station. From here they get gloves and vests, and then they head out to the very different places that got hit. I also checked in on Harrisburg today. On Vaughn Street we saw that they've got like 5 crews of UGI, PPL, people involved with the utilities. They are going from grid to grid now, turning back electricity. I also stopped by Shipoke. People are breathing a sigh of relief. Finally, they can get into their neighborhood. They are actually driving into the Comfort Inn and parking there. They say on Front Street the homes got 1 floor of water damage. Unfortunately, on the lower end of the Ray Street Drive area, people got 2-story flooding. A big cleanup that remains there. Of course, 83 bridge ramps up to 83 are still closed. So this cleanup will continue, but I'll tell you what, it's a day like this when you have volunteers, especially on this day of remembrance, 9/11. If we can come around here, Chris, show the people that are waiting here to have volunteers. They're feeding them, they're giving them water. We also have the National Guard. They are watching out to make sure there is no looting, and I'm sure that as we go to our next guest, Patrick O'Rourke, he can talk about the looting situation along the Swatara, whether he's seen any of this, as they have, unfortunately, here in Hummelstown. Reporting live with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom, back to you.
And Donna, stand by in case you have a question here, but the Derry Township Chief of Police, Patrick O'Rourke, with us, as Donna mentioned, and she brought up the subject of looting. Have you had any problems along the Swatara?
We had one incident where we had subjects that entered a restaurant that had been disabled as a result of the storm, but we've taken proactive measures with our codes enforcement people that anytime they tag a house that's uninhabitable, those addresses go to our patrol officers and they patrol those areas to prevent the looting.
Well, that's good. Now, we're talking about a situation here where you said you actually have fish in the basement of the police department, and this was a flash flood in your area, which came up so fast that it took all of us by surprise, including all of your residents. Have you ever seen anything like that? No, and it's funny you bring that up. We had talked early in the afternoon that it mirrored Irene, and then as the hours went on, they were saying that this is more like Agnes. But in 29 years, I've never seen anything like this at all. How long were you running straight when this first happened?
My first tour, I did 36 hours. I've had about 26 hours of sleep since Wednesday morning.
Well, you're doing very well for a man who's only had a couple hours of sleep.
I have a lot of help.
Tell me more about rescues, what the officers were out doing during the height of the flooding.
The first thing we had just after lunchtime was the current went through a mobile home park, and we ended up rescuing 7 residents from that area. That boat flipped over and capsized, so we had 7 people clinging from trees. We had to dispatch a second boat in there to get them out. Shortly after that, we lost a patrol car, and as the officer was going to a water rescue, she got swept away in the current and was able to climb out the driver's window and climb to higher ground.
She's okay?
She is okay. But throughout the day, we had water rescues going on. We had structural collapses occurring. We rescued 10 people by boat from a restaurant down in the Park Village Plaza area.
Amazing amount of water, amazing how powerful it is. CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan standing by. Donna, you have a question?
Yeah, Chief, have you seen any stores jacking up prices? I've heard rumors that some stores are jacking prices for water and basic necessities. Any problem with that?
Not in Derry Township, but I understand in the local area not too far from where you are, there may be a store that elevated the prices in water by as much as $12 a case.
Is that any kind of misdemeanor or any kind of crime, or is that just free enterprise and unfortunately taking advantage of the situation right now?
Now, I would recommend it if anybody has any complaints to contact the Attorney General's office, Bureau of Consumer Affairs. It's certainly not a good thing to do in time of need like this.
All right, Don.
And finally, I have one more question. What about the volunteers out there?
The volunteers have been great. We keep getting calls daily. More volunteers are coming in. We actually had our elected officials in Derry Township come in and help us, not so much, not only in an advisory capacity, but they have taken on individual roles and responsibilities themselves to ease the burden on the police department personnel. Our elected officials have been outstanding throughout this whole process.
All right, thank you, Donna. This question would probably be more suited for FEMA or PEMA, but I understand a lot of folks in the mobile home park didn't have insurance at all, lost a lot of their belongings, if not everything, and of course a lot of other people don't have flood insurance. Is there anywhere they can go for help?
I would advise them to contact the local police department, in this case, respond to the Derry Township Police Department, fill out one of the damage assessment forms, and at least get the process started, even though you don't have insurance. There may be some kind of financial aid down the road that comes along. You never know. It doesn't hurt to act proactively in this situation and get the ball rolling.
And document all your damage.
Absolutely.
Chief Patrick O'Rourke, I can't thank you enough. I know you're very busy today for taking the drive down here and joining us for this live edition of our coverage. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We will continue our coverage of the Great Flood of 2011 when we come back.
This is a CBS 21 News Special Report, The Great Flood 2011.
And welcome back to our special program, The Great Flood of 2011. I'm Rob Hanrahan. We're here to bring you the latest on the recovery effort with interviews with key people involved in the cleanup. But first, let's take a look back at the past 72 hours.
I was shaking. We were both shaking. We just wanted to get out of there.
It was really scary because the whole entire parking lot was just underwater, like going up into the building.
Continue to rain, the waters will continue to rise.
All of a sudden, our cars were like underwater, so we went running through the water to get our cars out.
I have so much anxiety right now. It's like, because I could lose everything.
I am declaring a curfew.
Just looking after each other, and that says a lot about the spirit of the city.
The time to panic. This is a time to prepare.
Way off the charts, and it's going to be a magnitude so much higher that I don't even know. I can't even comprehend something like this.
This is a catastrophic event, and we want to make sure that we do all we can to protect our residents.
This is the worst I've ever seen it. It's involved not just this area, but other parts of the town.
I don't like this. This is only the second time this has been like this, and it's not this. It wasn't this bad the last time. It wasn't even in my yard.
Bridges are built to withstand the volume of water that actually is going to flow underneath them.
And I will tell you, I am amazed at what water can do to concrete and to asphalt and to the bridges that we have, and it's done quite a job here.
When you see the devastation that I've seen in 4 counties so far, how Pennsylvanians reacted to this, and how our firefighters, our police, and other first responders came to answer the call to duty, it just really makes you feel great to represent such good, hardworking people.
The images are still stunning. People are offering support in any way they can to help people recover from this disaster. CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan is with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom in Hummelstown, where neighbors are helping neighbors, and they got organized today, didn't they, Donna?
They certainly did. And I tell you, I just saw some kids coming back. They're filled with mud everywhere. Their mom is just going, this is incredible. The damage that they're seeing as they're working to help their neighbors clean up from this mess is just incredible. I'm here on Main Street here in Hummelstown. The street is quite busy because people are active and about after this flood because they are lending their time and energy to help the people who have been victims here. 200 basements flooded in Hummelstown, another 25 homes totally submerged by the Swatara Creek. The National Guard is here. They are watching out to make sure there's no more looting and also to make sure people do not go on the bridges here in Hummelstown. If we can come over to the fire station here, you can see we have volunteers manning food stations, water stations. From here, volunteers are sent out to various neighborhoods that were hard hit. And of course, this occurs as they give tribute to 9/11, a day of remembrance. A decade ago, our country was attacked, and they're also making it a day of true service here. I'm going to go to Robert Martindale here. He is the EMA director for Hummelstown, and I am hearing the people who are coming back just filled with awe and amazement at the damage that they have to clean up here.
They are very much so. I had one lady come back and she was almost in tears, and I said, look, why don't you just take some time off? But they're going right back out. They're 100% troopers, and you know, you got to give them a pat on the back for that.
And you said you expected 80 and you got 300?
We were shooting for 80 with a little bit of luck. We wound up with over 350.
What is the biggest concern? Just trying to do traffic control as if you got the volunteers out there, or you everything's good?
You always have little bursts, but everything's good per se. We're just trying to keep people safe. We're trying to get things to clean up as quick as possible. Obviously, they're running into stuff. We had dumpsters. The dumpsters are being full already. We've got 4 dump trucks. We got front-end loaders. We got skidders. We have everything under the sun. They're getting full, so we're going to dump them tomorrow, and we're going to have at it again just as soon as we can.
And I think that's my last question. This will not be just today for these folks. This is going to be a life-changing event.
This is, for lack of a better word, this is a 100-year storm, and we're going to try and make it a better day tomorrow for them by cleaning up as much as we can to get everybody's lives back to normal. There's a lot of people who have contacted me saying, I've lost everything. We understand you lost everything. I'm going to do the most of my power to get you to where you enjoy life from this day forward with FEMA and the Red Cross and everything else. So.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. I appreciate your work here. No problem. Reporting live with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom, back to you, Rob.
Donna, you've covered this flood from all different areas in our coverage area, so stand by, because right now we have the New Cumberland Borough Council President with me, Jack Murray, and New Cumberland hit extremely hard. Can you tell me off the top here how things stand right now?
Well, we're doing pretty good right now. We've gotten to the point where the Bridge Street will be open. It's possibly open now. I was over and inspected the bridge. We're washing down the street and trying to get that cleaned up. As soon as we get that cleaned up so traffic can pass through, and as I said, it's probably open now. PP&L has a number of power trucks there, the gas company's there. We're going, they're progressing from house to house, and whenever it's cleared, and we check the meters and so forth, those people will get their electricity back. And our southeast pumping station, we're waiting, and we expect to have the power back on there very shortly. So
things are progressing.
We're progressing very well.
It's a key thing, though, in this situation, correct me if I'm wrong, but to clean up this mud, silt that's left behind, because this flood water was, frankly, toxic.
Exactly. And, well, we start out with the, believe it or not, a street sweeper goes through, picks up as much of the mud as we can, then we come through with hoses, wash it down, and try and get all the water off of the road. And the fire company does the bulk of that work as far as hosing it down is concerned.
Here is some video. Were you out checking out surveying the damage shortly after it happened?
Yes.
You want to talk about some of this? That's an entire dumpster floating in the water. If you know how heavy those things are, that's pretty amazing.
Well, there's the bridge that comes over from Fairview. And as I said, the water's down on that now, but it was necessary to close the bridge early, and it's been closed for several days now. There you're looking at, on this side of the bridge, you've got a number of businesses there. Nick's Cafe, a restaurant, and there's garages located right next to the creek. So they were, no pun intended, out of business.
Yeah.
Coming up the street, and you can see there they've got a water coming out of a overflowing manhole cover.
Yeah, manhole.
So the manhole covers are popping. The dumpsters, unfortunately, they're not tied down, and
well, they can't be. I guess, when the trash.
that's
people
right.
come, they need to be
Normal
able to pick
operation,
them
you
up.
wouldn't have
Yeah.
them tied down. So you have the process of going around and sometimes blocks away, picking them up, taking them back where they belong. We're pretty well along the way with that, and the cooperation has been excellent. Of course, we've done this so many times. I was asked the other day, and I said the biggest asset we have is experience. It's an unfortunate thing, but we know with the confluence of the Yellow Breeches Creek and the Susquehanna River, well, I have to laugh. They
Not
say,
your first rodeo, right?
well, they say this is a 100-year flood. In my lifetime, I've probably been through about 600-year floods. It happens.
And they're bad.
The concern this time around was there were a lot of new folks, younger people living in that area, sort of rookies, as you will. And, but they've been very cooperative.
Good.
The old timers always knew what to do and they got out early.
Right. I want to bring in Donna Kirker-Morgan. She's got a question for you. Donna?
Well, I actually have two. The Iron Bridge, everyone's asking about that. And also, what about a volunteer effort in your area? Is there a way that people can help out the folks there?
The Emergency Operations Center is at the firehouse on 4th Street, and anyone who wants to help out can report there, and they'll send them where they're needed. The cooperation has been very good, as you might expect. And the Iron Bridge, it is open. I'm going to make that statement now, that it is open, and so traffic can resume between Fairview Township and the borough of New Cumberland, which will make things a lot easier.
Isn't it great to be able to say that at least? You know,
Well,
I mean, I know it'll take a while for the businesses to open.
Everybody's
but at least the bridge
concerned
is
about
open and-
the flood when it happens and so forth. From this point on, I've always said this is the toughest part, because now you see what the damage is and reality sets in.
Right.
And we didn't have any loss of life, thankfully, but now you'll see what I call flood rage. People have to be patient. That's all we're asking. We ask them to be patient with us. We have the dumpsters ordered. They will be there. We'll continue the cleanup efforts, and that'll continue well on to into the next week.
I gotta take a quick break. We're going to continue, though. Well, more with New Cumberland Borough Council President Jack Murray when we come back.
This is a CBS 21 News Special Report, The Great Flood 2011.
And we continue our conversation now with New Cumberland Borough Council President Jack Murray. And Jack, when we left off, you were talking about younger, newer residents versus the veterans who have been through this before and how they're cooperating. Tell me more about that.
Well, when we had the projections of what was going to happen right away, we went door to door. The police department went door to door, and with some help from the fire department, and notified every resident, told them that they would have to move their cars. You've got to get the vehicles out. That's the number one thing, other than people, but we asked them to move their vehicles. It told them what to expect and when they would probably face evacuation. So we took that step. Later on in the flood process, when it was expanded, we had to do the same thing. So everybody was put on alert as to what steps they should take. Now,
how was the compliance with that?
very good.
Oh, good.
In that whole area, we had to tow one car. So people were very cooperative. And some people are a little impatient with it, but that's the key thing. From here on out now, we have to be patient, but we'll get back. And
You've been through a number of these. Can you give folks a time frame as when people will feel that they're back to normal?
well, for most of them, in about 2 weeks, they'll have things pretty well cleaned up and so forth. And the power will go back on. I expect the power down there will be back on today. So they'll have power, and then they can start the cleanup efforts. But it'll take a couple of weeks here to get all the debris out of the area and so forth. And some of those folks are going to have to, everybody's going to have to pump out basements if you have one. It's going to involve washing down wars and taking squeegees and pushing mud out of your house. Very difficult.
Yeah,
it's
it
an
is.
emotional as well as a physical
Sure
experience. And hopefully they can just hang in there. But
Have you heard any reports from across the bridge at the Capital City Airport?
only...
I know that's not in your borough, but...
No, but the only reports, isn't actually a report. We've had many people, when are you going to open the bridge, when are you going to open the bridge? Because it cuts them off from our shopping area, and it cuts people from New Cumberland off for access to the Giant and other facilities, and access to things along the airport road there and so forth, and the Capital City Airport. So,
what is the most frustrating thing? You said in the last segment that you've been through how many floods of a lifetime? 6, I believe, or something like that. But what makes flooding such a different event from other weather events that you have to take care of the borough?
Well, in the flooding event,
the slow rise of the water?
The slow rise of the water, and as I said, I think we're good at it, but we actually have a projection list. We know if the Yellow Breeches Creek is going to be at 10 feet, the Susquehanna River is going to be at 15 feet. We know pretty much where the line is going to be as far as how far the water is going to rise. We're not always certain how quickly, but this one came up very quickly. And but our experience and the fact that we have kept track of these over the years makes it easier for us to let people know you can expect this and so far. That's very helpful, particularly people that have things that have businesses. I know the barber shop, for example, had to take all their chairs out and store them somewhere, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So, but I've experienced every flood since 1936. Now, my experience in 36, I can't recall for you, but
I was going to say, I think you were quite young.
I'm not going to give you an
happened.
eyewitness account of that. But it's not that it's okay, but we're used to it. And if you want to live
near the river
and the Yellow Breeches Creek, which is a great area, then once in a while these things are going to happen.
I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you have to call your EOC right away as soon as you're done here, but Jack Murray, the Borough Council President from New Cumberland, joining us here live. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, more from CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan in Hummelstown, Dauphin County, and Carlisle Mayor Kirk Wilson joins us here in the studio. We'll be right back with that.
This is a CBS 21 News Special Report, The Great Flood 2011.
And welcome back to our special report on the Great Flood 2011. Cleanup and recovery will take a long time from this 5th largest flood in Harrisburg history. CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan is with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom in Hummelstown, where people are gathering to help each other out.
Yeah, they are. They expected 80 volunteers to show up here at the fire station in Hummelstown. Some 350 of them showed up. Some are right here inside the fire station. They are feeding the volunteers as they come back from different locations. 200 basements flooded here, 25 homes totally submerged. Some of the volunteers are back, and look at them. They are just covered with mud, and each of them have a story about the devastation that they have seen. Amanda and Allie, what area were you working in, and how does this make you feel? Why did you decide to do this?
Well, I mean, like, our school's right down the street. We live here.
Yeah, right in Hummelstown. We've seen, like, people devastated with, like, there's piles of debris right in front of their house, and it's awful.
We helped a man named Chuck. He has, like, a huge barn, and, like, we opened the doors, and there was just, you couldn't even walk in.
Piles of debris stacked up.
I mean, 2 hours later, like, there's nothing in it. It's completely cleared out. He started crying, like... It's
all
awesome.
The families, there's like so emotional just seeing everything they have. They couldn't even take like their the most treasured items. They just had to see like get washed away with everything.
What area were you working in?
Down at 7-Eleven across the street from there.
Now, is this the area that you guys are working in?
Yeah.
What are your names?
Kyler and Jack.
Okay, you got a little messy, but do you think that you've learned how important volunteering is in a community that's in crisis?
Yeah.
What are the kinds of things that you saw? This is their mom.
it's like a war zone down where we're at the 7-Eleven there by Haas's. Two of the houses that I have helped with, the first house, the ladies' stuff, everything is gone. We were knocking down drywall. The second house that we just got into is an elderly handicapped woman, and we couldn't even open the front door. Everything is just loaded to the ceiling. Her washer, I mean, to tell you how strong it was, it literally picked up her refrigerator and turned it upside down, and her washer's on top of her dryer, and just the total. She has lost everything. I was just with her. She's getting shelter, and I just cried with her because we are devastated, and her life. But that's the thing, all her material things can be replaced, and I tried to explain that to her. And
do you think that this has been a tremendous lesson for your boys?
Well, they've seen, and we've had other friends and family that we've helped out, but definitely all these kids, they're all LD, this is their community. Hummelstown always comes together, and definitely, I mean, it had an effect on me, and just the smell and everything, and I'm sure all four of them have learned.
Thank you so much. 350 volunteers out and about today in Hummelstown. I'm sure this is going on in community after community that has been so hit by the Great Flood of 2011. Back to you, Rob.
Some heartbreaking stories out there, Donna. Stand by. There were some communities that escaped the brunt of the flood. One of them, Carlisle. Mayor Kirk Wilson joins us now, and we asked you to be on the program because of your extensive experience with emergency management and transportation and things like that. And one of the things I noticed through our coverage, we were on for about 36 hours straight, was that number one, the relief that we had when we contacted you and found out that Carlisle was at least one area that wasn't too badly affected. But number two, that the governor kept warning people about how toxic flood water is. Yet we still saw people like jumping off the Market Street Bridge in York, people letting their kids play in the water. How dangerous is that?
That's extremely dangerous. You don't know what is in that water, what the makeup, what the content of the water is. You know, obviously there's some sewage product in there. We saw tanks floating in there, which would add petroleum perhaps in with it, along with, you know, heaven knows what else. But not only that, you don't see things that are floating down that river. That river, that body of water is moving faster than it normally does. And there could be something caught underneath, a dock, a refrigerator, anything like that could come down. When you jump in, that could be the first thing that you end up facing in the water is this, and totally not expected, and that's why it's so dangerous.
You have extensive experience, Katrina, Ike, all sorts of storms that you've seen communities come back from. What are we in for as far as time frame and the amount of effort?
Well, I think first of all, I think that the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, working hand in hand with their federal counterparts, have really seemed to have this under control. Now, I have not been to the EOC. I spent many a night, many a day there in previous years, but Governor Corbett has come out and he's taken a strong role, and I think that's important for the state's chief executive to do. It gives it much more credence. I think that the governor is very knowledgeable about not only what occurred, but what has to come forward. And when you have that level of leadership at the top that knows everything from here to there as what's going on, I think that will make the entire bureaucratic process of recovery move much more swiftly. I think that compared to Agnes, where it just seemed to drag on and drag on and drag on. We have an operation here, county commissioners. I was watching the Dauphin County commissioners. They've got their act together. The city of Harrisburg appears to have its act together. All of this is really going to make the process. I know that Council President Murray said that this is the time of frustration, and he's right. I've seen that frustration. In New Orleans, I saw it down in Galveston in Texas. There's obviously much worse than what we faced here, but frustration is frustration. But I think that these agencies that are responsible for helping get us back on our feet are up to the task, and I really, I commend them for the job they've done over the last week, and as well as your station.
Well, thank you. I understand it goes FEMA, PEMA, and then down to the county level, then the local level. So as a business owner or a homeowner, you can contact your local officials first, right?
That would be one. They will actually be establishing, if they haven't already, service centers which will probably be the best place for people to go. Those locations will be publicly announced. Anything and everything that you think you may be qualifying for, they can tell you that right at these centers. So once the FEMA and the PEMA people get in and get set up, that's when I think you'll really start to see the recovery process take hold, and people will have an idea in their minds then, what they can do if they didn't have insurance. What can I expect? Can I expect any help from the federal government or the state government?
How prepared were you, and how relieved were you with this storm?
I would have to say, and I just got a email from a friend of mine, Kevin J. Malloy, who used to be, many years ago, the emergency management coordinator for Dauphin County. He's currently working with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. He said, Kirk, remind everybody to be ready, that they have a responsibility to have their water, to have their, everything like that, their generator if they have one, or lighting. And I think we were pretty well prepared in Carlisle. We know which of our streets flood. We had barricades out. We were ready to move them in to block the intersections if necessary. Fortunately, Carlisle Fire and Rescue Services weren't needed in Carlisle because they played a vital role down in Derry Township. They were one of the first swiftwater rescue teams to go down there. So we had that expertise sitting right there in Carlisle that we were really happy to see go there, and that we didn't need them in Carlisle.
Yeah, you saw what happened in Derry Township. I mean, that could have happened anywhere. That flash flooding is so much quicker and so much different than flooding from a big river like the Susquehanna.
Yeah, because you don't know where the water's going to come from in a flash flood, because it all depends where the heaviest downpour occurred, what channel that water will follow. When I worked with Governor Thornburg, Brady's Bend, out in the western part of the state was hit really hard with a surprise flash flood. Another one in Somerset. It's just unbelievable how you don't need a body of water to have a flood.
Let's bring in CBS 21's Donna Kirker-Morgan. She has a question for you. Donna?
Now, I know you've been involved in emergency management for a long time. My question is, here we are on the anniversary of 9/11. Do you think that we have learned lessons from this and from Katrina? We are better with PEMA and FEMA and being prepared?
Yeah, I think that a number of issues have occurred. You mentioned today's 10th anniversary of the attacks on New York, Washington, here in Pennsylvania, but also the other natural disasters that have occurred, especially the Katrina. That brought a whole new awareness. I think as a part of that, the federal emergency operation was changed and rearranged. I think that we have it, the Joe citizen, Jones citizen, understands the importance of emergency preparedness now. They take it seriously. And so I think a lot has occurred. I think Donna makes a very good point there, that over the last 10 years, there has been a change in the public attitude, and I think that's why things will go smoothly.
We're out of time. Carlisle Mayor Kirk Wilson, thank you. Floods are strange weather monsters. In the event of heavy, unrelenting rains, they sweep over communities, taking lives and property without prejudice. In large rivers like the Susquehanna, they creep slowly into our homes, bringing mud, sludge, sewage, and other toxins with the water. In either case, floods are expensive, exhausting, and emotionally draining weather events we'll all have to pull together. That's our report.